is the December 17th meeting of the Town of Southampton Landmarks and Historic Districts Board. Present are members Vicky Kahn, Susan Cherry Clark, Larry Jones, Jeff Gibbons, Bill Hine, and Stephanie Davis, and myself, Ed Wisnowski. Participating by Zoom is Samantha Malone. Absent are Barbara Roberts, Martha Green, and Tim Ganettis. All have communicated various degrees of illness and gave advance notice of not being here. This meeting is being conducted under Town and New York State law for providing for in-person and remote participation. Individuals may undertake remote participation by going to the town clerk's portal, agenda and minutes portal on the Southampton Town website. You can participate in the meeting by activating the Zoom link to be found there. Otherwise, to view, just click on the live indication at the top of the page. The online Zoom participation is being moderated by Peter of CTV. For remote comment on a particular agenda item, please notify CTV either by chat or raise hand function relative to an agenda item so that comment can be made. To reduce wait times for online and in-person participation, our practice is to advance such items on our meeting agenda when notified of agenda items of interest. Commentators will need to provide their name, their agency, and place of residence or business when speaking at the lectern where the mic and into the microphone. With that, I think we can proceed to the initial item on the agenda, which is the minutes of the meeting of November 19th. The minutes were distributed and comments and amendments were made. Are there any further elements involved with the minutes? Hearing none, I'll move their approval.
Second.
Seconded by Vicky. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, to the agenda item, we'll take up the demolition permit for 53 Narrow Lane, Watermill. I did circulate a very brief summary and report. The house, by virtue of affidavit from a relative of the original builders, indicated it was built in 1940. And basically, the other elements of the property that are there involve sheds and barns. This is the house that you can see. The house has vinyl clad siding, textured vinyl. The garage has metal textured siding, basically same pattern. They were obviously put on in 2 different episodes, presumably. So the house appears not lived in for a period of time, with basically some change in the characteristics of the house. And the house doesn't have, I would say, not much to recommend it architecturally. And is small, certainly. I'm not sure anybody would build a house that's small out in this neighborhood in recent times. Um, the barn, the potato barn on the property is built 1950 and is to be kept, not part of the demolition process that's to take place. In looking at the sheds when I went to inspect the property, why they were in pretty bad condition. You can see the holes in the roof of these older sheds. So the garage, the concrete floor is deteriorating. There is some old framework of some kind of mechanical equipment that was sitting on the property at the time as well. So that's the look. One of the sheds has a early 1950s Chrysler sitting in it. An interesting piece of equipment there. It's looked like at one time it was on the luxury end of the Chrysler scale, Chrysler New York, New Yorker, or Chrysler Royal. But in any case, the vehicle is somewhat rusted, and I'm sure with the windows closed, probably has some ample mold inside as well. So I have I recommend no objection to the demolition of the structures that were enumerated in the application, and just make a note to the building department that any alteration of the any building permit application for the potato barn in the future be passed for referral to the Landmarks Board as well, since it was highlighted as a potential part of a thematic historic district in the town of Southampton. In 2014, the consultants proposing the historic districts and landmarking for various places in the town of Southampton identified potato barns as one of the thematic possibilities for the town of Southampton, given that the landscape and the remaining agricultural landscape still has intact probably 25 or 30 potato barns, many having been created during the heyday of the potato agriculture from 1900 to 1960 or so, 1955, 1960. So anyway, I noticed in the potato barn that behind the doors that swing open, there was the installation of an overhead door, brand new, inside one of the bays, and some electrical work installed in one of the bays as well. So, do you have any further comments?
I love what you say. Stephen D. Lemansky, Southampton Engineering Services for the applicant, 50 Hill Street, Southampton, New York. And you took my speech, so just if anybody has any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, do you do a vote tonight, or do you do a recommendation tonight?
Yes, if there's no problem with the other members of the board who received the application and saw the report, the review that I sent around, any problems with this? So there's no objection to the application, and we'll send it back to the
Thanks
building
very much.
department.
Thank you.
Good night.
Right. Okay, so next up is an old piece of business, 13 Ochre Lane, Shinnecock Hills. this was just as background for, and reminder, this was put over from the November meeting, and we requested some additional information on site plan and the drawings, and those were provided a couple weeks ago, and we did receive them. We received some other correspondence as well from individuals criticizing the project. But Miguel, why don't you just provide your information? Let me try to bring up the
Miguel Weinstein, architect, representing Changi, 13 Ocker Lane in Shinnecock Hills. We provide revised drawings, and we provide a rendering of the property. We added the specifications that they were requested, and we also sent a surveyor location of the proposed new house, and basically that was what was requested by the board.
The let's see if I can get the this is the site plan for the new dwelling, which sits on a very small lot, narrow lot that, let me get the full screen here. So as you can see, the former building actually had built elements that went right to the property line
9 inches
on the
away
east side.
Yes,
Right.
9 inches away from the property line.
Right.
And
So now you have the new building as a proposed setback from the property line of 12 feet 8 inches
Yes.
and one side, and on the other side 18 feet 9 inches. Is there a variance that's needs to be approved for those particular?
the setbacks those are in compliance with the setbacks regulations. The side yard setbacks, right?
In looking at the environment of the building, this is the parcel on which it is to be built.
Right.
And one complaint that was made was that it was overscale in terms of the neighborhood. That if you look at the properties here, especially the narrow lots, you can see that they all are configured pretty much in the same manner as what is proposed for 13 Ocker Lane in the drawings. So, you know, that's one observation I made. I actually had gone, and I hadn't added up, you know, you have very detailed drawings you provided. And you have the square footage for each room on your drawings.
Right.
And I hadn't gotten a chance to add them all up, but I had been looking at the living areas in the neighboring houses and so on, and perhaps my impression without doing the mathematics is that it might be just a little bit bigger, but it is not a big deal bigger.
No, it's just
So,
not so much bigger than what used to be.
So you also, on your original drawings, just for the audience to this issue, had provided and asked for input from the Landmarks Board, and we did provide some feedback last year or earlier this year about roof lines and window styles.
Correct.
And you modified,
We modified the design to comply with the requests. And
right, so we just want to make sure that that is remembered as well. Having seen the new information and the site plan and the elevations provided, is there any comments from board members here?
I would just say, I assume that you needed to put the solar panels in to meet
to meet
your
code. Yes,
code.
that's
You know, I'm not thrilled with that, but I realize when you have new construction, it comes under different guidelines than if it had been a renovation.
So this would be the south side elevation, the main appearance of the building
correct.
to anyone within the art village who would travel the roads. Should have mentioned that 13 Ochre Lane is found in the art village, a distinctive community with a unique historical origin going back to the 1890s. Any further comments or feelings or ideas?
Thought the removal of the multiple vents in the roof and replacing it with a different kind of venting system
Right.
was an improvement.
Thank you. Yeah, we did that. Yes.
Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
Thank you, Peter. And if there's nothing else, then do we have, okay.
Thank you. Linda Riley, 235 Hampton Road, Southampton, New York. I just want to, I was here last time. I just want to make a couple of additional comments, if I may. And I just want to pass out one thing that I'm going to elaborate on briefly. The top part, can you pass them down? Maybe that would be efficient, yes. I probably have too many there. I do, I did. The first part of the package that I passed out, I gave to you once before. It's in the back of a letter. It's a copy of a map of the immediate neighborhood and the houses on the small lots that go down the stretch of Ochre Lane on the same side. They're all third-acre lots, a third of an acre or so. And then there's one larger lot across the street that faces it that also has all of these houses that I've marked there are original houses that have, some of them changed a little bit, but not much. They're pretty close to what was distinctive about the place in the first place, and they look a lot the same now. The second part of the package that I gave you, and again, I made this point last time and I won't belabor it, but all of those roofs are low-lying, low-slung eaves with second stories sort of tucked under the roof. You don't find any three-story houses there, and they're mostly smaller, especially on those smaller lots. The second package that's sort of attached to that, though, is something that I wanted to point out to you, which was something that you reviewed and approved on one of the houses that you see in the front of the packet. It's 17 Ochre Lane. It was 17 Ochre is one of the ones that's in the front. It looks exactly the same now from the front, even though there was a substantial renovation and expansion done to that house. And it was reviewed by you, and from what I can tell, it was an excellent renovation, because on the 17 Ochre thing, the view from the front was kept exactly the same. So the front facade remained exactly as it was, even though there was a rather large addition put on the back. And not only that, but the house was lifted up and a basement put in and all this other stuff. The 17 Ochre renovation was careful to keep the roof height the same in the back where a rather substantial addition was put in. And a lot more space was gained without disturbing the character and the architectural distinctiveness of the house. And it's not to the past. I mean, it is an example, I thought, of what could be done here that isn't being done. There's a lot of extra space, I think, in this house, particularly a third floor, which is unnecessary. I don't see the point of it, and it just adds to those three pyramidal roof lines in the front that make it look a little bit like a three-tier wedding cake. It's not at all the appearance that it had, or the scale, and it doesn't fit in with the neighborhood, in my opinion. And I think there are other ways of achieving an addition. So that's my purpose in showing that to you. About the panels, solar panels. I inquired about the building inspector about that, whether or not the solar panels are. And there are requirements under the HERS code, which the town has adopted. But as a result of that HERS code, it's really the size of the house that is making it. I mean, he wasn't addressing this particular house. I want to be careful to say that, but if it were a smaller house, if it had less bulk, if it had less square footage, it would not need those, from what I'm understanding. So I'm just asking that, there is in fact a variance application that's pending that was just submitted. It's for a front yard variance. There's a long time to go before this house is going to be built, and it seems to me that there are improvements that could be made that would make a difference in terms of fitting in with the surrounding neighborhood and improve the scale. It is a 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom house that on top of that has a den, a TV room, a study, a great room, a living room. I mean, it's got an enormous amount of space that it's taking up. It's at the limit of, I'm not doing a zoning analysis here, but I do want to say that there is time to make this better. And I'd appreciate it if you could take a look at what happened at 17 Ochre, which I think is a much better example of a way that things can be done without disturbing the rhythm of the neighborhood. Thank
you. She mentioned that all the houses in the area, they were as small as this house. 13 Ochre was the only house that was 1.5 stories. Basically, the second story was an attic converted into rooms. and members of the board that were in the house, they remember that you have to go bending around to pass through. William Mary Chase's house, that is the house that the neighbor that she's representing, is a 3-story house that is two properties away from 13 Ocker. Across the street is another house that also is three stories house. This was the only house that it was only 1 story and a half. Really was the only cottage. The other ones were all houses. So the idea of the to add the space was to actually have rooms that were livable, and that's what we did.
Can you tell us in square footage how large the house is?
It's around, it's right here. The roof area is 2,942 square feet. It's in the package in sheet A1.
But do you know the actual square footage of the floor area?
The floor area, we have the first floor is 2,552 square feet. The second floor is 1,419 square feet.
The house that we're looking at for 17 actually says that it's just under 3,500 square feet. So we're not really talking that big of a difference between them, just a difference in appearance and how they were put together. I think this house is probably a deeper house, although similar in width.
Well, the property is really narrow, so that's the only thing that we are able to do.
Yeah. And originally you had pyramid encroachments and sideline encroachments. It was commented that there's a front yard variance required?
This lot was single and separate before 1957 change of the zoning code. Every lot that you have that was before that time that was separate, single and separate, has to go to the zoning board to again give the variance for the front setback. That we are exactly copying the same that used to be before. We are putting the house at the same setback from the front yard. So, but the lot was on the size for the zoning code, and you have to go back to the zoning board.
Got your answer?
Yep.
Okay. Just as a piece of information, as well, there was also mentioned at the last meeting a town justice determination with respect to the process of the demolition that took place earlier this year, and the town justice order just says that all future activity for this project has to conform to the town code processes and specifications. So there's nothing, our role is advisory at this point. We don't have any regulatory impact on the project. And we have given advice along the way over a period of time. So with that, Are there any other concerns here? I would recommend that we respond to the building department without an objection to the project as it's been presented. Does that meet the expectations and feelings of everyone? Okay, so that's the consensus of the board, and
Thank you very much.
we'll respond, and apparently you have a long road to hoe elsewhere. So, thanks for your patience and the additional information getting things to us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
By the way, it's been a learning experience for us too.
Thank you.
Fine. Okay. 89 Cobb Road, Watermill, which we've had some previous discussion with at the prior meeting, and
Did you want me to preface it?
why don't you give the background on it? So.
Okay, Vicky and I made a site visit on November 15th. And it was our second one. The one that we made the year before was for work done, just exterior. This was the interior. And when we saw the basement and the brick, I was concerned because it's, in my opinion, I'm not used to seeing houses with that many renovations still on the original foundations. Usually by then they've been lifted and they're on cement block. But I was concerned about going through the wall and the stability of the structure. But to save this, it's, I just wanted reassurance and something in writing because I don't have the expertise to judge that. If I knew the answer that it was okay, I would have felt comfortable saying no objection because it's an addition on a house that's already been altered. But it's my understanding, David Wilcox assured me that the building department will be the ones to determine that, the stability, and that's enough assurance for me. So I need nothing else in writing and not an engineer's report. When I say I as I present to the board, because it's not up to me, it's up to the whole group. But I personally don't. I was concerned because I felt that I needed that to present this, but it's my understanding now that the building department will be the ones that, I just thought that might help you before you, that an engineer's report, I would recommend that it be waived, and we can proceed from there, but is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay, so, is that your understanding, Vicky, too? I mean,
Yes.
okay.
You
so-
understand where the issue that we had in the basement.
So that's, I just don't have the still don't have the expertise to determine that. And I know there are other members on the board that they were there, they may have been able to, but we're good with that. So it will be handled through the building department. Okay?
So,
That I can present the rest, but I'm not sure.
so.
Did you want me to continue or?
Well, I was just going to say, with respect to there was no issue with respect to other things.
Yeah, well, then I was just, the engineering, that was, I think, one of the main issues. So I recommend that we waive that, that it be no objection. And we're just advisory. And, I personally would like to see, if possibly, like a smaller addition bumped back, maybe lower, just a little more subservient to the house. This is purely a recommendation, advisory, because also possibly, I realized that the front porch was later, but that seemed to really add to the house, and with the little decorative work in the gables and the trying to think, that bay window on the southeast corner was original with the original foundation. If any of those could be incorporated or remain in the design. And also on that addition, if there's some way, I saw the it's standing seam roof, possibly use maybe more traditional roofing materials that were more similar to the house. But it will not be visible from the road because of the gate and the fencing. However, it's my understanding that our board looks at it as if there was no screening. At one time, it was visible, you know, from the driveway area. But it would be waive the engineer's report, no objection, and just a few suggested design recommendations.
Okay, well, is there any other problem with this that we, so there's no other concerns? So we will return to the building department, communication response of no objection, and Susan, if you have some.
Yeah, I have, it was this, what I had, had written.
Right, and, you know, if you want to put your stylistic advice,
Yeah, I will do that.
feel free to do that, okay, so it's only advisory. So I think you're done,
Okay, thank you so much.
okay.
I take my stuff.
So,
So, okay,
And just so you know, Mike, the green I mentioned before is here for 10 Hollow Road on Zoom. Just how everyone prioritize that.
okay. So why don't we proceed to 10 Hollow Road then? And Bill, did you have
Yes.
a reference material for this?
Yep.
Construction application. Okay.
Okay. 10 Hollow Lane in West Hampton is in an area that was historically located between the settlement areas of Spionk to the west and Union Place to the east. The property, which in the town of Southampton mass appraisal information includes a one-story dwelling with an AYB of 1935, 2 large frame sheds with AYBs of 1930, 2 small frame sheds with an AYB of 1986 and an unknown AYB, a 2-story barn with an AYB of 1930, and a greenhouse from 1984 or 2002, depending on where you look in the records. The property is not identified in the Town of Southampton Historic Resources, the 2014 AKRF, nor in the historic profiles of Eastport, Spionk, Rensenburg, and West Hampton from 2004. There are several historic resources, WH 22, 44, 45, 47, and 48, identified along Montauk Highway just to the south of the subject property. The Fordham Mill, RS 12, which was the first town designated landmark, is a little further to the southwest of the subject property. The work proposed in the application includes interior and exterior renovations and alterations for one of the large frame sheds or barns, which is used as a workshop. Other work, including replacement of a barn and a garage, and a replacement of a greenhouse with a new greenhouse, is shown on the site plan but is not described in the application. Reportedly, these 2 projects are slated for the future and will not occur at this time. The general area was originally settled by several families, including members of the Rogers, Jagger, and Waldo families, and the early maps only show structures directly adjoining Montauk Highway. The Rogers families are shown on Montauk Highway to the southwest of the property on the 1858 map. No development is shown in the subject property area at that time. Multiple buildings are noted along Montauk Highway to the south of the subject property area on the 1873 map, and there is the suggestion that Hollow Lane may have been opened, but no development was noted in the subject property area at that time. The 1902 map and the 1916 map show that Hollow Lane has been opened, but no development is apparent in the subject property vicinity. The aerial photographs from 1930 show no development is apparent in the subject property vicinity, which appears to remain largely wooded, but in 1947, several buildings are present on the property, including what appears to be the dwelling, several other long buildings that may be the present two-story barn, greenhouse, and subject barn, and a chicken coop. A cleared area with what appear to be multiple water or food locations is present immediately to the east, suggesting a pasture area for farm animals, perhaps chickens or ducks. As noted in prior reports concerning properties in the Jagger Lane area, Seth Robinson Jagger, the son of Oliver Jagger of Westhampton, and Mahidable Tuttle of Cutchogue, married Mercy Jager?
Jagger.
Is it Jagger?
Jagger.
Even though it's spelled differently, Gager, from Dutchess County. Seth and Mercy settled in the Jagger Lane area in the mid-1800s and acquired a significant amount of the property. Seth and Mercy Jagger's middle child was Frederick Ransom Jagger, and he appears to have inherited much of the family property after his father's death in 1892. The reference to F.R. Jagger on the 1916 map suggests that the subject property was once part of the Jagger family holdings. The owner at the time of the apparent initial development of the property, somewhere between 1930 and 1947, is not evident. Based on the historic photo information and the map evidence, the subject property was likely originally developed between 1930 and 1947 with at least some of the remaining buildings and was initially operated as a farm. The property configuration and nature of the large frame shed suggest that the farm was used to raise poultry, perhaps chicken or ducks. Although the property appears to have been historically owned by the Jagger family, it is not evident if they were involved in the property's initial development. In some of the photographs, there is an original pair of doors and windows remaining in the building. All of the other doors, all of the other windows are new. Stephanie and I both agree that it would be nice if they could be repurposed somewhere in the new building. Perhaps if they don't function well enough on the exterior, perhaps they could be used somehow on the interior of the building. None of the buildings, it's a flag lot, none of the buildings are visible from the street. There's an odd line in the siding on the south face of the building. The siding is cut in half horizontally, sided in two different lengths of boards, one on top of the other. Either the siding was repurposed from somewhere, or we thought perhaps that the building may have been some sort of a chicken or duck building, and that it was added into the height of it at some point, and the upper portion sided differently than the lower portion. There's mold throughout the building. We found a brooding closet in the building with most of the shelves missing, again sort of leading to either chickens or ducks or something being housed in the building. There was only one small area where you could see any of the framing. One of the rooms that had a view of the underside of some of the joists and the sheathing, definitely showing the building's age and quite a bit of water damage. So the subject property appears to be initially developed with the dwelling and the barn circa 1930 to 1947, perhaps by Frederick Ransom Jagger. It's clear that the subject property was previously associated with the Jagger family, which had long occupied the property vicinity, operated several local well-known hotels, and was responsible for construction of many of the older homes in the property vicinity. To the south of the subject property, Jagger Lane was named after the Jagger family. This property does not appear to meet any of the criteria for consideration as a landmark under the Town of Southampton Code, and as all the structures on the property are in disrepair, there is little historic fabric remaining anywhere, and the histories are not definable. Stephanie and I felt that there should be no objection to the construction application.
Any reaction from other members of the board? Basically,
Oh, it's interesting. Plus your histories.
It was nice to walk the property and see all the different buildings that are there.
Yeah.
We have somebody on Zoom to speak to it.
Yeah, Mike Macrina. I'm the architect for the client. Yeah, I met with two of the board members on site. It is a great piece of property. And the project that we were talking, that's in the building department right now is the restoration of that workshop structure. Pretty much just refinishing the interior. Because like he said, it's in really bad shape, very disrepair, a lot of mold damage, and so we're gonna finish the inside and just clad the exterior, and add a couple dormers off the back because it's the back wall is very, very low. That's pretty much it. But we have I'm sure no objection to trying to reuse that carriage door that we discussed on site that you pointed out to me. I'm sure we could find a nice use for it. It's a nice looking door.
What's the condition of the greenhouse? Is it wood frame greenhouse?
No,
metal?
it's a metal frame on an old concrete foundation. The foundation,
About waist high?
No.
All the way to the ground?
yeah, the foundation is all the way to the ground, yeah. And
Crank
it's
open window kind of a?
no windows at all, it's plastic.
Plastic sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing
Just the ribs.
historic, yeah, other than, the foundations probably date to the original development of this property, but that's it.
And the foundation stuck out about 20 feet at one end without greenhouse on it, and 30 feet at the other end without greenhouse on it.
Yeah.
And then there was a brick foundation that sort of disappeared into the soil back there too. So obviously there was a larger building there at one point, but it's a much smaller structure
The
now.
West Hampton Community Center is looking for a greenhouse, but doesn't sound like that's the candidate.
No.
Okay, well, I see that there doesn't seem to be any concern about it, and so we'll respond to the building department that we have no objection to your project.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We can go to certificate of appropriateness for, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, if you're still going on this one, we have someone else on Zoom for another item, but.
We have somebody for another item?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
They're on for 93 Jobs. There's somebody who wanted to speak about that.
93 Jobs. There's somebody who wants to speak about 93 Jobs.
93 Jobs? Lee?
Yes.
Are we going to hear from? We can take 93 Jobs Lane.
Okay, sure, I wasn't sure if you were doing this one, sorry.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hello. I'm Jessica Durham Twigs. I'm the architect for 93 Jobs Lane. I don't know if I could present some photos of the project.
Okay, if you're capable of,
Sharing your screen.
Okay.
I don't know if she shares screens or.
Okay, I'll share screen. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Yes, okay. So this is the original historical house. We believe it was like a carriage house for the adjacent property. This is a flag lot. And there's been quite a few renovations on this house since it was first built. And this is what it looks like now, that little addition section. And then as a whole, you see this whole area. The existing house is this section, and then all of this was added later. And right now, this is the bedroom over that existing portion, and there's a lot of undulating roofs and head height issues. And so our proposal was really to carry the ridge through so that this would be a more usable bedroom. We're not adding the amount of bedrooms, and we're trying to keep the curb appeal of the house as much as possible. We're just simply straightening this out, keeping the chimney and the dormers as is. And just wondering again what the implications are, or what the approval would be for this.
So, I did circulate a report for everyone. As you can see, the picture is the same as you just saw. The carriage house I mentioned was renovated and added to in 1980, I believe. The house has an AYB on the assessors database of 1930, but as indicated just now, it was associated with the property at 91, and that property we reviewed about 3 months ago for an addition, and in it I found that the house had been built early in 1914, and that's likely the time in which this structure was also constructed, having been associated with the property of Phineas H. Holt of New Jersey. And I did also indicate the two photographs of before and after. Did I say 1980 was renovated? 2008, circa 2008, yes. As you can see, the house originally was much smaller here, and this was the added component to the house in circa 2008 when it took place. I don't think there's any question of, there's not much historic fabric left in character to the original building, so that I don't see as any kind of issue. The drawings basically involve interior changes, but also replacing windows and doors on a large scale throughout the house. They all have divided lights, much in character with the existing structural style that's in place. And actually, in one set of windows on the round one entryway, there's two oval windows that probably are a product of earlier renovation, and they are now to be made as a diamond patterned square installation rather than oval, much, I think, more appropriate for the style of the house that existed there. Other items there, they're taking up on the exterior, they're taking up the old basketball court, which has probably been there 30 years or so. And they want to install a 6-foot brick fence on 2 of the property lines on the southwestern property lines of the property. I did not see any particular problem with that, given the neighborhood and the character of the landscape away from visible traffic. This is at the end of a private road, so there is no pedestrian traffic element involved in this. So my suggestion was for no objection to the proposal for the renovations that are to take place. I don't know if anyone else has any kind of concern.
No.
No? Hearing none, then I'll respond that the board consensus is no objection to the proposed renovations for 93.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you for the information and for providing it to us.
Yes, great. Thank you. Right.
Okay. On to certificate of appropriateness for Montauk Highway. This is an application for certificate of appropriateness for a change of sign. Change of sign color. It's kind of weathered. I guess it originally was black, but it's weathered into gray. This is the building that is there. This is the former building of the Bridgehampton National Bank, built 1920s or so maybe. And the bank has since moved on in history. Now the Dime Community Bank with local branches around. The proposal is to put a dark green background on the signage. There are signs on this side and on the east facade in a parking lot area, and to replace the gooseneck lighting with fresh, I guess, LED lit illumination.
Yeah, they'll be black though.
Yeah, the black shield. Yeah, right.
I'm Judy Vigliucci from Catapano Engineering, 175 Ward Hollow Road, Melville, New York. I didn't know if you needed clearly to see the Pantone color of the dark green that would be going, if you need to see this. It was there, but when you scan it in, it doesn't scan in great, so I wanted to bring the original so that you could see that it kind of is in your palettes of what you suggest, but if you need any.
And that's the sign.
This is the backing. It's the existing sign. It's just technically going to be repainted.
Yep.
And the lighting, just those gooseneck lightings replaced with new because they are weathered and worn.
So,
and the decal sign over there will also be replaced. Instead of it being a decal, it's going to be a sign inside, you know, small, but it'll be suspended inside, but it's visible from
non-illuminated.
Non-illuminated, absolutely.
And the light fixtures, it looks like the application has black lights as opposed to
yes,
look like
they're going to be black.
Okay. Those look sort of copperish.
They're like copperish, but they kind of get all gunky looking after a period.
This is the other side, the parking lot side, east facade of it as well. And there's some interior renovations going on, and the window exposure to the street and the public viewing areas, none of the interior, looking at the interior reconfiguration, really has any impact on the window views looking into the building. So that all seems perfectly appropriate to me.
If you needed to see what the interior was like, we do have photos of what it's basically very similar. The wood floor is remaining, basically just cleaning it up from furniture and replacing some of the seating, the couch stays the same. They're not expanding or anything like that. Basically just making it, cleaner, newer. They renovate every 5 to 7 years.
So my suspicion is nobody will much notice the change.
No.
That was the idea. That's the plan.
So I think it's totally in character with what's there and what the community expects with respect to the appearance of the building and the enterprise. There's no concern. Do we have a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness without modifications?
Yes.
Moved by Stephanie. Is there a second? Seconded by Jeff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that will include the interior renovation, because they have it listed on the agenda as well. The interior renovation is listed on the construction agenda. I just wanted to make sure that is addressed as well.
That will be included
Okay.
in the response, right?
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
there's actually 2 responses. There's the COA response and there's a construction application response, so.
Yeah.
Just so the building department doesn't.
We'll
Yeah, they
figure-
made
we'll-
sure that
we'll
I
figure
did
it
file
out,
2
yeah.
separate, so I
Yeah.
was like, I just wanted to make sure that it was both being addressed.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
Right, and
Have a
we
good
just
evening.
want to note for the record that Samantha voted as well in favor. Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy holidays.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 2899, 32 South Phillips Avenue, Spionk, planning response advice has been sent along, so that is not of concern for us to take up tonight. The other one, 2899 Noyak Road, is a subdivision. I don't know if Jeff had any thing. This was a planning department. Let me just get the visual here. Okay, so this is off Noyak Road. Appears to have a little wetlands issue associated with the parcel, but they plan to divide this parcel outlined here in 2. The house on it, somebody must be paying attention to house history in the planning department. The house has an AYB of 1915. I did not go into any kind of historical assessment. There were a number of farms along Noyak Road at the turn of the century, at the turn of 1900, 1940, 1950. And that might have been a farmhouse at one point. But certainly more research would be needed if there was something
Is that
associated
the one that has
with
the poor man's pergola going out to the street? Like, do you know what I mean? It's a series of columns that somebody threw up in a hurry,
Oh.
or either that or they're on their way out. But it's in the front of the house, and it looks like a farmhouse behind it.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if that's the same house.
Well,
I
let
don't know
me
the
just
number.
see if I can get an answer to your question here. I don't know how recent, 2017 picture, well, that doesn't give, that's just an,
Yeah, I think that's it.
that's it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yep, I know that house.
There's those white columns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a story to be told, I guess, at some point. And earlier picture from 2003 doesn't give much information other than the house itself. But the only question involved is that house is not being affected by the proposal. They're going to move a shed and the boat, I believe, for some mobile element in the project there. Since the house was not of this is the kind of subdivision that's involved. It's described as an arbor. So
Put that in, remember that. Yeah, that's it. It's Cedar Point Lane. That's.
Yeah. And there is a lot behind it that will undergo various things. Oh, it's to remove a camping trailer. That's on the parcel, so that'll be moved on to the existing residential lot 1 parcel. I don't see any problems here myself. I don't know if anybody else had any observations otherwise, but if not, I will send a no concern letter to the planning department. I think the public hearing is like January 25th, so there is plenty of time to get to it. Okay, 59 Montauk Highway, West Hampton. Landmark designation application was submitted. It's on for a public hearing, I think January 9th. So that will be possible interest. The castle, I think we have to kind of emphasize the label that it is the Theophilus Brower Castle and property, and to be called actually, I guess, Pinewold Park, which was his original name for it. So that will be up for discussion in January. 65 Old Riverhead Road. I haven't gotten my written material together yet for that, and overload is a problem. So that's to be done. I hope to get that done in about 10 days or so, now that a lot of big stuff is out of the way. 520 Montauk Highway, Shinnecock Hills, I guess still is an open question, and I have some ideas. I had several ideas, but they need to be changed because some recent events have changed the landscape for, I think, discussing them. But give more thought to that. The Stony Brook Southampton windmill question is a CPF SUNY discussion. I have not checked with anybody on that since the last meeting, so that still is up in the air. 11 Walnut Avenue is a landmark recommendation contingent upon an easement arrangement.
Yeah, both 11 Walnut Avenue and 149 South Country Road are, as I understand from Jackie, in the same boat. There's an issue with respect to insurance, and it sounded like there's going to be some change in some of the requirements to make it more feasible to complete the easement arrangement. So that's pending still at this point.
Okay, thanks. had some certified local government activity. We had a webinar for accessory
dwelling units, right?
dwelling units. Did you participate?
Yes, I did.
Oh, well, that's good.
I didn't participate in it, I listened to it.
Yeah, listen to it, but
Right.
that's just as good. Although one could participate, there were some very interesting things that were noted in that webinar that might pertain to the town of Southampton.
And you can replay it.
Yes, yeah.
Which is good.
Which reminds me, Dave, that we're all paying individual memberships. Has any check or any conversation taken place about?
I sent that email to Janice. She was going to look into whether there was budget money somewhere.
So I don't think that that about wraps up what was on the agenda. There was one item that I brought to the attention, or I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, and that was board operations. Martha Green and Barbara Roberts both have their terms expiring December 2025, and both are not interested in continuing to serve for various reasons, scheduling and the press of other personal business as well. So that will provide basically a new opportunity for the board. As I indicated in some communications that I've passed around and sent to the supervisor, that the Landmarks and Historic Districts Board at 11 is too big and does not work well the way in which the town has chosen to have it operate. So my feeling is I'd like to see the size of the board, which currently in the code goes from 9 to 11, to go down to 7 to 9 as the number of memberships that would be constituting the board. And I know we have new members who have not had a long history, but I can remember when the board was much smaller. And when 2015 or so, 16, one of the town council people suddenly put something at a town board meeting and increase it by 2, which they did from 7 to 9, I believe it was, from going from 7 members to 9, up to 9 members. And 2 members were appointed. And those 2 members eventually felt uneasy with their membership on the Landmarks Board, and within, I think, 6 or 8 months, both of them resigned. They felt that they could not do work or do the things that were required to operate. So I think this is an occasion to possibly ask the town board to reduce the number, rather than having town board feel they gotta populate the board up to the number of 11. Reduce it from a peak of 11 down to a peak of 9 for our operation. So I throw this out on the table to you, and ask for your reaction to the idea of a smaller board. Jeff, you go way back to some early
Yeah, I was gonna.
ancient history
Thinking
when the
about
board
all the
was
different-
maybe just 7 or maybe even smaller.
Yeah, in 2007. I mean, Susan, how many people were there? I don't
Yeah.
remember. Like, was it 6 or
It was
7?
a totally different
Yeah.
setup. I mean, I won't, we may add one application every couple months type thing.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I think in 2000 or so, the original Landmarks Board was 5 people.
Yeah, it was very small when I remember joining the board back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. I mean, there was 4 or 5 of us, but we didn't have nearly the workload that we had. We were not reviewing all of these applications. It was a much smaller scope of work that we covered.
We're happy if we could get a, landmark.
Yeah.
One
We only had
meeting was
4
sort of
forever.
equivalent to a year, because I used to put them in a running list. Here's 3, here's 6 for this year, here's 7. And then I had to quit doing that after, because
But
of
we
the
think-
volume.
Right, but 9, I think, is more than doable. I mean, even with
Oh,
the
yeah.
volume that we have, I think 9 is,
Yeah, I think
it
9
is
is.
very workable.
Yeah, I think the
I
key
don't think
is
we need 11.
yeah.
Well, originally, there are a lot of threads connected to all of this, in the sense that there are no resources provided to the Landmarks Board that should be there. There's no budget, and there's no way in which you can carry out the mission of the Landmarks Board. Here we put up a Bridgehampton Historic District. It's still not registered with the state of New York, simply because it takes some hours of somebody to get material and data and punch it in. And, that kind of activity is not available. And actually, there's some irony in all of this, because I think somebody sent to the state of New York the prospective district for one of, I don't know whether it was Spionk and Remsenburg or whatever, and it's put into their CRIS system as a proposed district. So a lot of stuff could be done, but it needs mostly human resources to monitor and do this. And the human resources go, elsewhere in town government. It used to be, we look at our agenda and we can see there is 9 months of minutes that have never been rendered into a written record because there was nobody to do it. I did it once, but when I realized I was being snookered into doing it by other people, I stopped doing it. And so there's got to be some change in outlook of the town government with respect to how they want this board to operate. It originally was a review board, not a research board, not an educational board or anything like that. So, but all that stuff is out there that we're supposed to be doing, and there's no resources in order to get it done. But I would like to, if it's the opinion of this board that 9 members max is a number we can work with, I'd like to recommend that. And they not go and fill 2 positions willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Yes.
With respect to that, so.
I think we're all
Do-
okay with that, right?
Yes.
So, we're good with that?
Fine.
Yep.
Why don't we have a motion to put it on the record?
Motion.
Motion by Vicky,
Oh,
seconded
so it's a
by
second.
Jeff.
Samantha has something to add.
Oh, Samantha.
Yeah, I had a question. If we're making this change, I think that it would be a good argument to get something budget-wise, right? Like, even if it's a small amount, that is cutting back on some money that the town would be spending. So I'm not sure if that's something that's possible, but it'd be nice if they could do that.
Seeking to have the budget amended is also one of my hopes. But in order to get something done like that, it needs to be drummed into the public discourse of the town government 6 or 7 times before it gets noticed. So, but it's been, a couple of memos have gone forward about it before, and I think the supervisor was interested in having another meeting sometime after the new year to discuss elements of the Landmarks Board operation. So nothing, no dates or anything like that, but that was a general expectation that she set out. So. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion of it? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for us to undertake tonight? Are we all in good shape, given the...
I had one thing. Remember Bob Mosier from 29 Dock Road in Remsenburg?
yes,
He
yes.
requested extension
Right.
of his landmarks maintenance grant. I don't know if we want to take that up at this meeting or at a later meeting when after the landmarks maintenance program is announced for the coming year.
Well, I think we should try to give as much advance notice. I have no objection to it. We have had delays in the past for new members or recent members of the board. The usual expectation was a year to get a maintenance project done after the money was awarded, but experience has shown that sometimes there are delays, some maybe by owner cause, but in other cases outside the capacity of the owners to handle.
Yeah, this particular case, it's because it's taken so long to get his easement. He needs the funds from the easement, the facade easement, to actually fund this repair work. And then, our grant is a reimbursement type grant. So he's been waiting for the easement, which I understand has now gone to closing. So he should have his easement funds before very long, and should be able to undertake the project in this coming year.
Well, I would myself then move that the project extension be given to December 2025.
I would second that.
Is there any concern or
No.
question on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, carried. And Samantha is in favor of it as well. Okay, thank you for bringing it up, Stephanie. I'd forgotten about it.
Bob doesn't let me forget.
Anything else for our meeting tonight? Hearing nothing, this meeting is adjourned. Thank
Getting out of
you.
here too early.
Everybody
Yeah.
have a
Have a
good
wonderful
holiday.
Like,
You too.
Wonderful Christmas, wonderful New Year.
I was thinking.